Thank you everyone for joining us today at Pipedrive Tower. We didn't have an event like this for a long time, so it's really nice to see that many people. Today's topics are very different and they are not connected at all, so it would be, I hope, really interesting for you. And I would like to make a few announcements before we start. So this meetup is recorded and you will be able to see it on YouTube after some time. Please behave. Yes, Mick, please behave. Don't do anything. And what else? If you have any questions, please wait until the end and raise your hand, and I will give you a mic. That's basically it. After each talk, we will have 5-minute break so we can get more drinks, go to the toilet, and we start again. The first one is Lembit Lõpp Lightyear. Give a round of applause. Something about Flutter.
Hello. So, yes, hello. My name is Lembit. I work at a company called Lightyear. And I'm going to talk to you about mostly about Flutter, what it is, what you can do, something about Lightyear as well, because why not? I can bring like good examples of stuff using our own things. You will notice this recycled icon down on the bottom. It's because I'm, reusing the slides somewhat. Anyways, fundamentals of Flutter. But first off, I'm going to talk about my history as an engineer. I've met colleagues here today from basically all of the companies I'm going to introduce. So this is going to be, for some people, a day of remembrance. Anyways, first off, as I started my professional engineering career, I worked at a company called WebExpert. Previously, I had done like freelance and learned to develop myself. I did web pages for my like video game clans or whatnots. But then I went to WebExpert year 2008. Yes. I did mostly PHP, MySQL, old style websites. You could call me a backend engineer by my stack then, even though backend engineer did a thing called templating as well, where we took HTML created by a front-end engineer and added variables to it. So, it was rough back in the days. We didn't have good technologies, but we got stuff done. I was there for 6 years. I developed quite a lot personally, I feel at least. Overall, a good experience. But as always, people get tired, and it was time to move on to Pipedrive. Yes, the company who's hosting us today. So I joined Pipedrive 6 years after WebExpert. Now let's do some math. 2014, I guess. I picked up the backend developer task at the interview. I mean, I went to the backend engineer interview and picked up the front-end engineer task because for some reason it came out that I like doing front-end more. I did it successfully, joined, started as a front-end engineer. At first, Pipedrive had this front-end stack which consisted of, you can't see this because the colors are super off, of Backbone.js, which was like this early days single-page application framework. And, back in the days, it was pretty cool. Over time, Pipedrive started moving on to React. I think by today, all of the Backbone code probably not, is gone, or most of it is gone. But all of the new stuff that Pipedrive builds, I hope, is built on React. During my time here, I had many adventures. I was in multiple teams. I even was an engineering manager, something that I didn't like too much. And by the end, I was in a tribe called Fundamentals. Therefore, that's why I had the name for there was a pun here, Fundamentals of Flutter. Yeah, I did mostly front-end stuff. In the end, front-end like framework where we defined our component system, design system, micro front-end system. That was I was included in all of that. But anyways, after 6 years, like the previous story, I got bored and moved on. Moved on because one of my friends called Martin Sock from Wise was starting to build a new startup. And I was like, this is cool. I'm in a company of 600 people and I don't know half of the names, and I want to build something in a small company. So I had the chance to join a fresh company as the first employee, non-founder employee, and the company is Lightyear. So yeah, it was an easy choice because 6 years people get tired. I wanted a new challenge, and the biggest challenge there was that I wasn't gonna be a front-end engineer anymore, or I would say I was gonna be, but with a different stack. I'm gonna quickly talk about what Lightyear is as well. So I joined as the first guy. Now we have this many and more people, 25 across London and Tallinn. We're building an investment app which you can hopefully use in Europe within few months as well. Currently, if you're a UK resident, you can use it already. But it's basically we're doing what Wise did to sending money from one country to another. We're doing the same thing to investment. So you're basically paying nothing when you want to buy stocks or stuff like that. Don't ask me how we're going to make money. We're going to figure that out later. But for now, it's something that's free. Soon in Estonia. Actually, I was hoping it was going to be today the launch, but we got postponed. You would have gotten beautiful promo codes otherwise. Anyways, beautiful app. But now to the topic. This beautiful app is on Android and on iOS devices. And it's built using Dart and Flutter. I'm really sorry that I used those logos. Those are the ones I found on Google, and they look better on other screens. Yeah, Dart and Flutter. Sir? It's fine. They're just names. It's Dart here and Flutter here, and they make mobile apps. But they actually do a lot more. So Flutter just released version 3, extending their stuff to desktop applications as well. They're really good on mobile, and they did web as well. Their web is, I haven't tried it, but I would say it's okay if you want to build applications. It's not okay if you want to build websites. Desktop, Mac and Windows are possibilities as well from version 3. And the cool thing about it is that Flutter and Dart both they're made by Google, right? And they're made with the idea that you should use them to build applications. You're not supposed to, take JavaScript and then make something weird out of it. It's just those two things are designed to build applications. And in my opinion, they're designed well because they've learned from previous mistakes of other platforms and improved upon them, or taken the good bits and just went with them. In this talk, I'm going to compare Flutter heavily to React, TypeScript, JavaScript, because I can, and I have experience with them, and I can patch them if I know how they work. Anyways. But I think the main structure will be, I'm just going to show stuff that Dart and Flutter do, like some cool things, because you can always go to the interwebs and look at the YouTube video that says, hey, you can make an app, just do stuff. But I'm going to show some cool tips and tricks me and my team have found really useful, especially which are somewhat special in the front-end world regarding Dart and Flutter. So let's go. So first off, Dart. As I explained already, just a screenshot from Wikipedia, made by Google. It's almost 10 years old, or almost 11 already. Cross-platform, and the main use case is actually using it with Flutter. It's object-oriented. It's strongly typed, and it's pretty cool. First cool thing about Dart. So strongly typed means that you have types in your code. What types help you to do is make less mistakes. So if you write, let's say, code in JavaScript, you want to do 1 + 1, and one of the ones is a string, you're going to have 11. That's something you cannot do in Flutter, and that's that. Of course, in JavaScript, you can switch to TypeScript and have half of your app full of any types, but the experience isn't as nice. I've done TypeScript, I've done this, and I feel like this life here is so much more convenient. Also, already mentioned object-oriented. Like any other language, all of them have their own flavors, but Dart has like some pretty cool like things you can do. For example, it somewhat learned from JavaScript, where you can access a prototype of an object and extend it. For example, you can take the even prototype of a string and change it to something else, and you can change how it behaves. You can do a similar thing in Flutter, but you can't change how something behaves, but you can add to it. For example, in this example, you take, you have a datetime object. You can have basically just what day is today, but you can add a function to it. Just add a function which is called is it today, and all of your datetime throughout your app would have this function now. Dart, of course, has more object-oriented cool things like mix-ins for classes. For example, you can define a mix-in on a class that you can then add to a class. Like you add like certain properties always to a specific class. We used it, for example, in our data fetching library, where specific data sets use different properties. For example, one data set could only fetch data. One data set could also poll its results every 5 seconds, and we used mix-ins for those. And other tiny cool features regarding object-oriented stuff, and all the basic things you would expect from an object-oriented stack as well. Features. So in JavaScript, you're probably used to promises. Basically the same thing. Also, pattern is the same. Either using async await or promise.then or future.then pattern. You can just wait for stuff. Everything can be async. The types are well made regarding futures as well. So in this example, you can see that the getAppConfig is a function that would return you appconfig eventually. So pretty straightforward and super easy to use. Late properties, another extra thing for the classes. So this is basically lazy loading of stuff. It can be used in many ways. In this example, there's the coffee, which can be served either hot or iced, hot or cold, yes. And well, you have to either heat or chill it at one point, and then you have a hot or iced coffee. Another cool way to use it is you can actually define, let's say, finals, late final string something equals basically a function call that gives you the result. And this is only called when you use the property. So built-in like caching and lazy loading is super cool. Next up, developer experience overall. This is both for Flutter and Dart, is really good. So how we usually do it is most of our team uses VS Code. The plugins there are excellent. You can run the stuff there. You can debug very easily. It's built in. Like I remember trying to debug TypeScript, JavaScript. You have to have like millions of plugins and the correct GitHub packet, npm packages. But with this, it's just you install Flutter. You have the Flutter plugin. Everything works. You can use on Macs, you can use the iOS simulator to just run it. Android simulators with Android Studio, really easy to use. And of course, the main Flutter dev experience is that it has hot reload. So you make a change, you can see it right away. So this is super convenient for UI development. And I know that in some places for mobile engineers, this is something that is really sweet. Because I know it myself because right now I'm working on making a wrapper for iOS SDK. So every time I change something in the wrapper, I need to reload the whole project compared to Flutter where you don't need to do it. More about Flutter. So Flutter is like React. So tree-like structure, you define your components, which in Flutter are called widgets, but I'm going to use the word component because that's going to make more sense. But there are thousands of them provided by Flutter themselves. In web, you have lots of components provided as well. They're called the div elements, the A elements, the HTML, the body elements, and they're, in my opinion, pretty nasty. And why I think they're nasty is because they're old. They're when was HTML created? Like beginning of 90s, something like that. So they're old, and they've been building more HTML, more CSS on top of the same things forever. Developers didn't know how to vertically align stuff until the later years, because it's just stuff that has been improved, but the old stuff is still there. For example, I just had to create the HTML email template, and oh boy, that's something disgusting. But Flutter has looked at all the stuff that web has made, that let's say mobile development things have made, and they've just looked and seen that, hey, we can make like simpler components and just base our application building logic on top of that. React Native did the same. With some caveats, there's still some styling stuff, which is weird. But with Flutter widgets that are provided by the framework, you can build any type of layout you need to, and even more that come out of the box. When I made this GIF for my previous presentation, I actually used my JavaScript skills and went and counted all of the components on the thing I'm scrolling at. There were 1,000. I'm not saying that having 1,000 components is a good thing. It's a bit bad as well. But it's still nice. Also, when you go to their website, then you can see this categorized stuff where you have like layouting and inputs and scrolling and painting and async widgets, and you can, you will find the thing you will need, except for SVG rendering. As I mentioned, layouting, super easily done. It follows the flex pattern mostly. So you have your columns, you have your containers, your rows, and it's like pretty easy to build a layout like this. Of course, it has more widgets that are for like this basic layouting, and you don't have to follow flex pattern. You can do grids. And if you really wanted to, you could even try to do something similar to the old school web. But the basic stuff is easy. Transitions. And now, beautiful videos from our own app. Having control of animations, transitions, scrolling, everything is super good in Flutter. So developers don't find like trouble making like beautiful stuff, transition from one state to another, seeing where your scroll bar is and so forth. And it's pretty nice and pretty easy to make like UIs that users really love. Like one of the biggest feedback we received from our customers is that the UI is beautiful. And we believe that the UI is beautiful because we've made it beautiful with, tiny little delightful things like transitions and whatnot. And I also already mentioned that, developer has lots of control. They can do whatever they want. They can make their scrolls behave however they want to. And compared to web, where even scrolling to an element is a bit difficult, here it's more powerful. Now a commercial break. Today I met the CEO of CodeMagic, and he told me that, well, basically he didn't tell me much. He just asked if I'm satisfied, and I told him that yes, I'm satisfied, and I have a slide for him because that's good. Just to mention, CodeMagic by Nevercode, a company called Nevercode, is an Estonian company, by the way, who does the best CI/CD for Flutter, in my opinion, pricing-wise and feature-wise. So I don't know how many of you are mobile developers, but what mobile apps usually need is for them to be available on the App Store. So for that, there is you can do it manually. You make a build, upload it to the App Store, scratch your head a little bit, and then try to sign it correctly and whatnot, so they would know it's from the correct source. But CodeMagic is a really nice company and tool to do CI/CD for Flutter apps and actually mobile apps and React Native apps as well. So if you ever need to actually get a mobile app to production, go to their website, and they have good resources on doing that. But yeah, basically what we do is we have a YAML file defining how we want to build our application, where it goes, what the secrets are and whatnot, and then it's all beautiful and automated. Every time we push to master, we make a build, our phones get it. When we want to get it to customers, we press a button, our customers will get it. So it's all beautiful. So I would also mention some things that aren't too nice. You already noticed that to create this simple layout, I needed like the flex layout. This was like 20 lines of code, which in HTML could be like 3 divs. That's because CSS is basically inline, in a sense that where you define a widget component, you need to also, in the same place, define how it looks like. I actually like it, because then you don't have to jump to a different file to understand what this is all about. This is basically like inline styles. And of course, if you get too long files, you should do what every other developer who knows how component-based systems work. You extract some code and make it reusable, so it would look pretty. I mentioned, I forgot to mention dev tools. Dev tools are good, but they could be better. You can, do this inspect element kind of thing, see how a layout behaves and so forth, and everything is beautiful, but it's a bit lacking. For example, you can't monitor network requests as nice as you can do on Chrome, for example. So Flutter could work on that. And I think the biggest minus is that the community of Flutter is not as strong as front-end engineers would be accustomed to. But yeah, like JS React communities and all the packages you can get are like really well made, and there's so much of it. So I think basically nothing compares to it, and Flutter has ways to go to have like good open source packages and so forth. Of course, there are many. I think we're using over 50 already, but they're not. All of them are not the same quality, and sometimes you need more. Anyways, that was a quick intro to Dart and Flutter. I'm Lembit. I'm from Lightyear, always hiring. And if you have any questions, it's time for them now. Also, everyone who asks a question gets a pair of socks. Right? What? Yes, it's time for questions. And if you ask 2 questions, you won't get 2 pairs of socks. If that's a question.
Hey. So you've mentioned that the experience is way better with IntelliSense and code completion and everything when you work with Dart compared to TypeScript. But it was, like to me it sounds, at this stage, like just a claim. So if you could provide any example of how you would be dissatisfied with TypeScript and satisfied with Dart in the similar situation, that would be awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
Thank you.
That's a great question. So I think you can get similar experience in both. But why I believe that TypeScript is inferior is because you have to work so hard to get to the same step. Like configuring a TypeScript project and finding the right tools is like the size of the community is basically stepping on your toes. I've done some in here, even in Lightyear, but I always feel like it's like hacking together something to get a good result. So I feel like it's just, you take many pieces to get a good TypeScript project, as to Flutter is this out of the box. If that makes any sense.
All questions?
Hey. Hello. Thanks for the talk. I actually just want the socks. But no. I have a question. So you mentioned that HTML is very old, but also Dart is getting rather old today. Does it have some syntax or features or something that is actually rudimentary and doesn't make that much sense today?
I haven't found anything like that in Dart, but I would say in Flutter, yes. I forgot to put this as one of the minuses, is that Flutter is trying to do too much. For example, Flutter has built-in material theming and component support, which means that you can really easily build material applications, but in my opinion, those components and themes and whatnot should be as a different package. So they're also, growing their thing a little bit too much, in my opinion, and should instead create different packages for those purposes.
I want to have socks as well.
Okay, but you have to ask a question.
Yeah, I will. You mentioned about automated builds. What about automated tests, and how much do you test the UI there?
Good question. So we had some integration tests at one point, and as everyone knows, they're always flaky. It's impossible to get them well done anywhere. We had some. We don't test too much because our development speed is so fast that stuff changes every minute, every second, and if we write tests on something, we're just slowing ourselves down. Instead, we're doing what every other company does, is our users are our testers, and we haven't had any big issues. Like main flows, we had tests from them, but I have tasks today to change all the main flows. It's gonna be annoying. So we tried it out. CodeMagic itself was a tool that could run the tests, or on GitHub Actions or whatever. But we thought that we're just going to delete them because they were just slowing us down and we didn't have the time to update them. We do have some unit tests for some simple business logic, but in UIs, unit tests are useless. It's like, did you render a component? Yes, I did. Cool. But for some, computational stuff, for example, I had a function to get the initials of a user. This test failed at one point, or this feature failed because someone had an emoji in their name. So I just had to write a bunch of tests to cover emojis and whatnot, so you can have a Lembit smiley face as your name. Kurapov.
Yes. I have a question. How did you choose this Dart? And did you specifically choose it? Why? And are you running desktop, or are you writing desktop app as well in Flutter? Because it seems like if you're going full Flutter in, then it's one thing. But if you're just doing mobile, why not just use native?
So first off, first question was still one pair of socks, even though multiple questions. I didn't choose it. It was chosen before me by the CTO. I agree with the decision. So the alternatives would be either go native, do it as a web app, use React Native. And I think from all of those, that was the best option. Why do I think that? First off, going native, twice as much work. Finding engineers for native, almost impossible. So out of the question. Web, you can make pretty results. The things we had a very fancy designer. By the way, we got Kuld Muna this year for our app design. This is the big award that people get for design. Anyways, he wanted fancy stuff, and we made fancy stuff, and making that fancy stuff on web is going to be not easy. And there was another part of the question. What was it?
You will ask it later, because we will have a break, yeah?
No, I want to answer. Why Flutter, not React Native? Because React Native wasn't good. React Native is still in beta. Just a reminder. And when I wanted to, I actually needed to use React Native at one point in Lightyear to try the Veriff integration, because I was doing a Flutter wrapper for Veriff as well. I wanted to try it. React Native out of the box, start building your app didn't run. Come on. If even that doesn't work, what's the point of it? But yeah, I've done React Native some demo here in Pipedrive as well, and it's nice, but I'm not a fan because of many of the reasons I mentioned as well. And one more thing I wanted to mention: writing Flutter for a I have never done any mobile apps. I hadn't done even Flutter, but writing Flutter Dart as a previously front-end engineer was super easy. It's 2 weeks and you can be a Flutter engineer. Just look at their docs and you can build stuff. So in that sense, the patterns are all the same, almost the same, and it's easy to build.
Are you ready for 2 more questions? Or let's ask them after all?
Of course.
Yeah?
Millions of questions.
So there are 2 more and we continue.
Did Artyom get socks?
He will.
It's cool, man. I actually got my answer.
Yeah? Okay.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. I'm not a software developer. Yeah. What? I'm not a software developer. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, okay, but my question's more product-based, actually. When it seems as a fintech platform which focus on US stocks and seems quite profitable than the rival companies as Revolut, etc. But what if the company look towards the Asia or some other different markets, and how will it affect your workload, work style, and also smart contracts may come up according to the crypto, etc.
Okay, good question, product question. So yeah, Lightyear today is providing US stocks, but we're already working on providing European ETFs, UK stocks, and EU stocks. So the plan is actually we have one platform, we keep adding markets. We probably want to go to crypto, adding Asian markets, good idea as well. Of course, there are some Asian stuff on the US stocks, but not all of it. But yeah, the idea is to have access from Europe, from UK, all over the world to invest anywhere. That's the dream.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you, Lembit. Small thank you from Pipedrive.
Thank you.
Yes. And let's have a short break just to get the water and whatnot, and we continue. 5 minutes.
Come here, so we make you feel like we are flash it internationally. Hey. Poets in the night.